What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Soul Who's channel. My name is Jeffrey. I'm joined with Ryan today. No Matthias. He had some stuff come up, but we're going to be talking just general around the league stuff, summer league overview, a little bit of the news, recent signings, all that kind of stuff. Just how off-season talk usually goes, just whatever's happening at this week. But before we get into any of that, Ryan, how are we doing today?
We're doing all right today. I had work today earlier from 7 to 11,
Yeah.
4 hours, just quick in and out. I mean, it's kind of nice to get up early like that. I mean, I woke up at 5:30 to get my day ready. I don't know. It's kind of nice, but also I'm already starting to feel a little bit tired. I don't know. I've got work again tomorrow morning, so it'll be an early night tonight. Probably won't stay up for that 10 p.m. Central Timberwolves Summer League game.
Yeah, there was
no thanks.
Bucks played at like 9:30 the other day, and I was hosting a Twitter space, talking about Summer League, Bucks Summer League, and our signings and stuff. And we all were like, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it all the way through this game. I ended up staying up, and like kind of checking in on the game, but at the end of the day, I was like, it's like 11:30. I was like, I don't need to be staying up till 11:30 for Hugo Bassan hoops and like
you don't. I promise.
Vin Baker Jr. blowing layups and can't grab a rebound. Like we're good.
Yeah, Matthias, he went to Summer League, so
yeah, I know. I'm sad that he's not here today. I wanted to ask him how that was. Like,
yeah.
It looked like he had a good time. He met his idol, Trent Wofford. So
he did meet his idol. Yeah. So it'll be cool when he is back with us here, so we can kind of ask him about what that was like, because something I've always wanted to do. I think everybody kind of wants to go to Summer League at least once. So we'll have to ask him about that.
Yeah, I was thinking about going, and it kind of snuck up on me on when I would need to like plan the trip. So then I kind of
like I always, every single summer, I forget how fast it goes from the finals to the draft to free agency to Summer League. It goes fast, and before you know it, it's like Summer Leagues in a week. I don't have anything ready. So.
Yeah. Are you a pro expand the off season, make it a little bit longer, just like how the NFL does, or are you good with this timeline?
I don't know. I think
the NFL has a way longer dead period, though.
Yeah, that's what I don't like as much as that. Like the NBA offseason is super fun, but it all takes place in a month. Like it all takes place in June and early July. And then like end of July, after Summer League is over, it's just dead. I mean, we'll have Team USA with the Olympics this year, which is nice. And we had some FIBA last year, which was all right. So we've got a little bit to hold us over. But I don't know. I just know in a few weeks it's going to be dead, like dead.
Yeah, I will be recycling old arguments from the season. People will be discussing how there will be the yearly Twitter discourse of, are the Pistons a borderline play-in team that has been in for the last 3 years, as they've been the worst team in the league the last 3 years.
That's the worst part, honestly, is like when the same arguments, the same discourse comes up every single August. It's like, come on, we're too grown for this. Come on.
Yeah, guys, we got to move on. Yeah, I'm the offseason basketball discourse is definitely the worst of any sport. Like, I think there's more negativity surrounding teams than there is positive. Like in every other sport in the offseason, everybody thinks they're going to be good. Like, and NFL, everyone's like thinks every single one of their draft picks is going to hit, and like every single one of their free agency players is going to be a better fit than the last guy. Like every single team thinks that. Like the MLB, which I've been starting to try to get more into, which is a cluster to try to follow, but everybody's like, oh, all of our prospects are going to get called up in June. They're all going to be good. Like all our pitchers are going to be healthy. Never happens. Never happens once. So, in the NBA, it's like every other fan's like, my team is going to be dog shit. Everyone else is going to be ass. Why isn't my GM doing anything? But, it is what it is. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
So you want to talk? Let's talk a little bit about free agency. We haven't done a full free agency. We did talk about it briefly last time. But I think now we have kind of a better feel of what these teams are going to look like and what the fits for these free agents are going to be looking like. What has kind of been the thing that's changed for you most since last time we talked? I think for me, I think I'm a lot lower on some of the teams that made the bigger moves than I was originally.
Yeah.
Um, like still like with New York making the big swing for Mikal, the front court depth on that team, I saw a graphic of their depth
Yeah.
chart. It's pretty rough. Like especially when you have injury prone players that are in the front court right now. I mean, Mitchell Robinson, well known for missing time. Julius Randle missed a lot of time last year. You don't know if his injuries still could pop up every now and then. Along with like Josh Hart's always hurt. He played through a lot last year, but he's been hurt. Like, I don't know. And then like Philly with Paul George, like I think they're going to be better than they were last year. But I was looking back at it and I was thinking about it. I was like, people are making a really big deal about this. I was like, is the production from obviously a two-way ability, yes, but is the production of Paul George as the third option going to be that different as Harden 2 years ago?
Yeah. And that's a good question for sure. And I've been thinking some of the same things just about kind of the teams that did make bigger moves, right? I just when I look at both conferences, and let's kind of stay in the East actually for now, just because you
Yeah.
mentioned the Knicks and Sixers, it's just like I don't want to do this, but it's like I still don't think any other team in the East can beat Boston in the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean,
And that's not the reason that you make these moves, right? Like it's not always
because you
about
could,
that.
because you could realistically anything could happen in the play. I mean,
Anything could happen, right?
yeah. Like genuinely, like the Celtics last year, Kristaps missing as much time as he did in the Eastern Conference Finals. If they were playing a team with like the Bucks or the Knicks, if the Knicks were healthy and they were playing the healthy Bucks team, like that would have caused actual problems. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like all it takes is like an injury like that or just some shooting variancy luck, you
yeah,
know, to beat them. But I agree with you with the Celtics thing in the Eastern Conference. I said I'm done comparing us to the Celtics. Like as a Bucks fan, it's like we're not no matter what we did this offseason, we weren't going to create a starting five comparable to the talent level that Boston has. It
yeah,
was making sure that we're on a level where we can ride wins easier and make sure that we can stagger minutes more and make sure that our bench depth is better so we don't have to override our stars and they can be healthy come playoff time, because when you have star power, you can win a playoff series. We see it all the time.
absolutely. And I guess where I'm coming from is, I shouldn't have even brought up Boston. I'm looking at the Sixers and the Knicks being like, does this really change how I feel about either of these teams in the bigger picture? And I would say probably not. I mean, the Knicks, like Paul George, or I mean, sorry, the Sixers, Paul George is undoubtedly a great fit to put alongside Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid, but can this core win you a championship? I don't really
Yeah.
know. The Knicks, I think Mikal Bridges, like that's their guy. Go for it. It doesn't really change how I feel about them heading into next season. I thought they were already going to be that number 2 team in the East, and I probably feel the same way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we'll have to see how things play out a little bit, but yeah, I mean, I don't think those teams are significantly better. I think a lot of the real winners kind of the offseason so far have been the teams that have made some of the more under the radar marginal moves. Like I really think that in the regular season, if you were 2 or 3 wins better than you were last year, like that's usually enough to kind of stay afloat and to make forward progress.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't know. I also don't know how I feel about some of those bigger moves like the Mikal Bridges and Paul George trade.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think you're getting clear upgrades. I mean, you're making your team better. Like the thing with like the Mikal one, I think for sure is where it's like he's a supercharged role player. That's what he is.
Yeah.
He's that Derek White type of player.
Absolutely.
But is that going to bring you from brink of contention to contention? I mean, I was a huge fan of what Brunson did last year. He made All NBA, right?
Yeah, I think he was All NBA second
Team. Yeah. I was arguing him as an All NBA first team player. So I don't want to come across
Yeah.
as a hater of Brunson or the Knicks or anything like that. But that was the only year we have of Brunson being like a all-star caliber player. We got flashes of it. But like before this year, but this is the first year we had a full year of it, and then you're going into this offseason and you're like, okay, you make a run to the second round. You're like, we're really injured. And then you're like, well, you better pray to God that Julius Randle is really going to keep up his play next year in the playoffs if you're not moving him for someone else, because we've seen what Mikal has looked like as a shot creating option, and it just hasn't looked positive, really. Even as a second option, I'm really not bent that high on him as like a second option on offense. So you have to pray that Jalen Brunson's production stays at where it is, and that Mikal's going to be able to contribute to a level that you need, and just the whole entire roster, top to bottom, is going to have to keep up. And they had a lot of stuff go right for them last season in terms of they had a lot of injuries, but they had a lot of stuff go right for them in terms of offensive shooting numbers, creation numbers, close game wins.
Yeah.
Close game wins regression is a very real thing, like a very real thing.
Ask the Sacramento
Kings. That's exactly what I was about to say.
Yeah.
So it's like you got to hope that all those things, don't break in the wrong direction. But I'm still very high on them as a team. I think that they'll probably be I think the second tier of teams in the East are about all at the same level. I think it's just going to be whoever's the healthiest throughout the whole season is probably going to be the 2, 3, and 4 seed. Like I said, like genuinely, like whatever team's the healthiest is probably going to be the 2 seed. Second healthiest is probably going to be the 3 seed. And third healthiest is probably going to be the 4 seed. And I don't think there'll be as big of a gap this year because Kristaps is going to miss until about December or January.
Really? Oh, yeah.
Because he had that knee surgery.
Yeah.
So, I think there's going to be a smaller gap there than there was this season, because this season was like 15 games or something like that. Yeah, it was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just think I agree with you. I think I'm a bigger fan of some of the teams that have made smaller moves around the margins than the teams that made the big swings this year. And I do like the moves. Like I said, I don't think I would take Paul George if I had that much cap space and I had a top 5 player in Embiid. I'm taking him every time. Like I would make the Mikal trade, especially when they had so many picks and a really deep roster.
Yeah, I would definitely do those moves as well if I was in the positions of either of those teams. It's just, I don't know.
How much does it change where you thought they would be without those moves to where they would be with those moves? The only reason the Sixers were so low in the standings is because Embiid missed 5 months.
Yeah, because Embiid's knee got fucked, and the Knicks, like, their entire team got injured in the playoffs. They would have beat Indiana if they were healthy, right? I think if they, and again, I would do the Mikal Bridges trade, but I don't think it makes them that, like, much better than if they were to have kept the same team around, maybe a re-sign Isaiah Hartenstein. You get healthy for next season, then you kind of, you go forward from there. So, yeah, it's interesting to kind of, as more time has passed, it's
I still think, and I still think there's question marks with those teams. I mean, they're not perfect rosters in any manner.
Definitely not.
For example, I mean, the Sixers, are they starting Caleb Martin at the 4 right now? I saw that's what their plan right now would be. Like what? Same thing, like the Knicks. Who's their backup 5? Jericho Sims.
They don't Precious Achiuwa. They don't really have one.
Precious is a free agent right now.
Really?
Yeah, he hasn't even been signed.
Then I don't know. I don't even know who they have.
So, yeah, exactly, Marla. So it's like,
Yeah.
what's really going on there? Like, what are you really saying is going to be like the peak of like? There's still holes on those rosters. They're not perfect rosters.
Which like 37-year-old big is like just
Well, Taj Gibson
out
signed with the
there.
Hornets, so he will
Okay.
be a
Well,
Nick,
not
and
Taj Gibson.
he will be on December 15th. He will be a Nick.
Man. Maybe call Marcus Gasol at age 41 and be like, hey, hey, buddy.
I'll be a Rashawn Holmes advocate. Or no, wait, no, he already signed. Harry Giles, sorry, that's what I meant to say. Harry Giles is third sitting in free agency. Go get him. Yeah. Well, there's been some recent stuff today. We're recording on the 18th of July. So today, officially, well, not officially signed, but Russ is going to be a Nugget. He was signed and traded to the Clippers for Chris Dunn, who got a 3-year, $17 million contract. Shout out to Chris Dunn. That's hype. That's awesome for him. For a guy that was a top 5 pick. Kind of bounced around the league to a lot of places. And
he was out of the league for a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, after the Chicago stint, fell out of the league. I think he went from Chicago to Atlanta, fell out of the league for a couple seasons, got a chance with Utah, and I thought played really well last year. I think.
Yeah, I wanted he was a guy I wanted the Bucks.
He would have been great for the Bucks. I thought a lot of teams, like I thought Phoenix was a team that really I thought should have taken a chance on him.
$8 million a year.
They gave Okogie $8 million, which I it's funny. It's funny. It's funny for $8 million a year for a 6'4" rebounder. That's kind of what you're getting there.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. I'm Russ's fit in Denver is intriguing to me. Like, I see the vision. Like, you need a veteran ball handler. He can control pace. He can go. Like, he can still run those fast breaks that Jokic runs when Jokic grabs a rebound, pushes up the floor, and kind of throws those outlet passes. But instead of throwing outlet passes off those rebounds, Russ is going to push in transition and hit open shooters, which is something that the Nuggets already do. So I see the vision there. I think it could create problems with the shooting because I don't know what their sub rotation is going to be, but they're going to have a lot of questionable shooting that's going to be in their rotation this year.
Yeah, I'm not super high on this move for Denver. I mean, why not take a flyer on Westbrook?
Yeah, like if you need they needed a backup guard.
They did need a backup guard. I'm just thinking about that Mavs series just a couple months ago and how it felt like the Mavs were being rewarded every single time Westbrook got on the court because he was just out of control, all over the place. Like all of the bad things about Westbrook it just was on full display in that series. And yeah, a team like Denver, I don't really know how you play a Russ and Aaron Gordon at the same time. I don't really know how you can play a Russ and Christian Brown as your backcourt at the same time. Peyton Watson too, another non-shooter. I mean, man, their bench was already going to be looking pretty thin. DaRon Holmes, one of the worst. Man,
yeah, that's really sad.
Really sad. Torn Achilles in his first summer league game. He was playing great. They needed that. They needed DaRon Holmes to contribute for them this year. It's super sad. He's not going to be able to play this season. So I mean, they've got to do what they can. They're in a rough spot, but I can just see it already. You know, halfway through the year, they're looking at Westbrook and it's like, should we just waive this dude because he's not working out.
Yeah, and he had a player option. So he took his player option and they said we're good.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, and another team that we can talk about with the margin moves instead of bringing back a star or acquiring a star, the Clippers have absolutely loaded up on role player talent this offseason. I mean, Derek Jones Jr., Batum coming back, Mo Bamba, which is whatever, Kevin Porter Jr., which whatever. I'm not even going to bring that up. You're loaded up on all these guys that fit that role player mold that they like of those lengthy wings, and you still have a ton of salary to move. if you want to move guys. Like I saw a report that they're preparing if the price is right for Levine, that they would make a move for him because it would just be Norman Powell, PJ Tucker, and Terrence Mann.
I would do that.
Exactly. Like that's right there. That's 41 million. I think that they can make a little bit extra if they throw in some other guys. I don't know exactly what's Levine's contract. 43. So
that's like, okay, Levine, that contract is bad, but it's not like
it's not horrible.
The years is a lot worse than the actual money, right?
Yeah.
It's just that there are years left on it. $43 million for next season, like, that's not that bad, honestly. I'm not like.
No, I'm not. I mean, if my team has salary and needed a third offensive option, I would 100% need Levine.
Yeah, Zach LaVine is good.
Miami should be on the phone for Levine. I'm gonna keep saying there's no reason they shouldn't try to get him.
Yes.
Like I just don't get it. Or even the Lakers, dude.
I don't know why the Lakers aren't just like. It's because of the D'Lo thing. I get like no team wants D'Lo, but like find a way to make it happen. Like Zach LaVine would be a perfect fit for that
I
team.
guarantee you, if you throw a couple picks, Danny Ainge, if you take a pick of a first in a couple seconds, I guarantee you the Utah Jazz are taking on that 17 million for 1 year.
Yeah.
They'll buy him out by the end of the year. They do not care. Danny Ainge wants picks. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that which Levine saga is probably going to go into late July, August. Probably. I mean, there's a chance he's just playing again for the Bulls.
That's kind of what I think is going to happen, just because we're hearing that.
But they should try to move him off. It doesn't matter if you get good value. You own your pick next year. Be as bad as possible.
Yeah.
This is way too good of a draft to be like messing around with this stuff.
We'll
like they don't actually own their.
We'll be the 10th seed. Like who? Like no, it doesn't.
They literally said that again though. Did you hear their GM and owner?
I saw that again, that they want to be back in the play-in mix. It's like, for what? Like what do you gain? Like, tell me something that this team gains from being in the play-in next year.
Nothing. Like you're trying to see if Giddey is worth keeping, and like what? Like if all these young guys click, like if Giddey, Kobe, and Matas, and all these players, and Patrick Williams, and Jalen Smith, who you gave a really good deal to, if he can pop, like if all those guys, all those guys mesh super well together, you win 36, like, and it's because you're young and all your guys are growing, then I understand being like, yeah, we're competitive because our young guys are growing and we have a youth movement, not because, oh, we still want Zach LaVine and Vucevic playing.
Vucevic, he was so bad last year.
If there's a player that they should just be calling and say, like, we will give you a pick if you can take his salary, it should be Vucevic. 100% every time.
He was bad last year.
Yeah, he was one of the worst scorers in the league, and he was one of the worst defenders in the league.
He was awful. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at Zach LaVine as like, he's not that bad of a player. Like the meter has swung in the wrong direction. Like, I don't think Zach LaVine is like, he's a net positive when he's playing. Like, does he have flaws? Can he get in like a tunnel vision mode sometimes? But you saw when they were the 1 seed and they fell down to whatever they fell down to, like the 6 seed or whatever, in that really competitive East year. It's like, yeah, they fell down, but like all the players were playing well with each other. DeRozan had the ball.
That's the thing with Zach, is like what people talk about his defense and his passing and his buy-in and his attitude. It's like Zach LaVine is entering his 11th season in the NBA, and he has been on a competitive team for one of those seasons. That 2022 year where they bring in DeRozan, they bring in Lonzo, Alex Caruso. That's the only year that like Zach LaVine has been in a competitive situation. In that year, like I remember, he was in talks of being, the best shooting guard in the league. Legit, I thought he had a season that year that rivaled what Devin Booker was doing, that rivaled what Donovan Mitchell was doing. If he is in a competitive environment that can get him to buy in, which he will buy in if he's actually on a good team, we've seen Zach LaVine be great. I don't know. I think the discourse has gone really weak. Like it's in a bad spot, like most things in the NBA. Like it's just not good. And I'm seeing people on Twitter be like, Emmanuel Quickly is a better basketball player than Zach LaVine, and I'm just like, I just can't get behind that. I'm sorry. I don't think
Yeah.
that's a weird take to me.
Yeah, I agree. And like I'm on Fanspo right now looking at the contracts that match up. I mean, Gabe Vincent, Jared Vanderbilt, and D'Angelo Russell plus like 2 million, like a minimum contract gets the trade done.
Yeah.
Like none of those players are like really that much of a positive for you.
No.
Like I don't understand what the point of not trying something at least. Yeah, but I mean, talking about the Lakers who we brought up, I mean, the Lakers have struck out on every single free agent that they've tried to acquire. Even min guys, Torian Prince walked, even though they wanted him back. Clay said that he would rather not play for LA, even though his dad, who is a Lakers legend, said that he wanted him to play there, and he took a meeting with them and everything.
LeBron James was like, I will take a $20 million pay cut
to make sure we don't get hard cap.
Right. I just like, it's interesting because I think players and agents at this point are just like, we don't want to deal with the LA circus, because that's exactly what it is. It's like playing for the Lakers it just feels like a lose for everybody involved. I mean, the pressure that comes with playing in that environment alongside LeBron James, under that attention, it doesn't do much good for players usually. And I think, and we're seeing that LeBron James basically made a $20 million bet to Rob Pelinka, in being like, if you can get any of these, three guys who, what was it? Klay Thompson, Jonas Valanciunas, like those guys aren't impossible to.
Jonas signed with the Wizards for $10 million.
Right. Like really? I just don't think players are really eager to play for LA like I think they used to a few years ago, especially with how they're just not that good of a team anymore either. Players are just like, I would like to play for an actual more serious team that could actually do something. And yeah, the Lakers, they're such an interesting team to talk about, because when have we ever seen a situation like this where their best player, who is still capable of, in my opinion, leading a team to a championship while being 39 years old, and you probably only have 1 or 2 more seasons of him? It's like, how do you balance going all in right now versus not trying to completely bottom out because LeBron's going to be gone in 2 years? It's a really weird situation in LA, and I completely get that. But yeah, I mean, this offseason kind of opened my eyes a little bit to the idea that, like, I just don't think players want to go there. And I think that agents are probably advising their players, hey, we should probably not take this Lakers deal. We should probably just go somewhere else. It's interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I mean, and also, like, players want to play with LeBron and Anthony Davis. Like, not saying they don't, but like, when there's uncertainty about the future of LeBron on the team, like LeBron is only going to be on he's just signed a 2-year deal. That deal comes up. He could be at the end of this season. He could say, I'm retiring next year. I'm going on my farewell tour next year.
That's kind of my prediction, is that after this, this contract is the last he'll ever sign. I think he's done after this contract is over.
Yeah, I mean, unless he really just signs like a 1-year deal after this to, just say, hey, if he feels like keep going, like, I don't think LeBron's going to retire until he is like, I literally cannot play.
Yeah.
At a high level.
Yeah.
But he also could be like, I can't go to another team because I'm still so good. I can't just sign for a minimum or like a low contract. Like, so like, should I just move on like with my day? Like, just retire and just go be a family, like just go be with my family, Especially now that he's playing with Bronny and stuff already. So it's like,
I don't think he wants to leave LA. Like,
yeah, me neither. I think if he wanted to leave LA, he would have left.
Yeah, for sure.
This is his second contract. And also, I just don't think the Lakers are being very serious recently. Where like I think free agents and agents that aren't clutch like are just like understand that like it's just not serious what's going on over there. I mean, I am hot. Like I think JJ Redick could be a good coach, but like hiring a first time head coach,
it's a risk. That is such a
that has no
one of the most interesting just things to watch this season is the JJ Redick thing because
JJ Redick is a great basketball mind, so I think he's going to be a good coach
for sure. But obviously there's risk involved. Like his only coaching experience is coaching his like 10-year-old son, and I mean he played the game for a long time, but we also know just like players don't necessarily always make the best coaches. Mm-hmm. And, typically usually it's like the star players that make bad coaches, but it's not I don't think it's not a guarantee that JJ will work. And I guess it's worth a shot, but it's going to be interesting because I think that there is high potential for it to hit. And I think there's high potential for it to fail.
Yeah, I agree. And I think he'll be a good coach. I think he's going to do well in his role, but I think there's also at the same time, there's so much risk involved with hiring a first-time coach with no coaching experience and honestly, no league connections coaching-wise or personnel-wise. I mean, it's not like he's been involved in the NBA like in a way that other people sometimes have, like, but, and there was the reports about them struggling to fill out an assistant coaching staff. And stuff like that.
I saw that as well. I don't know.
But I don't know. I mean, but the Lakers also, they just haven't gotten anyone. They have the same roster last year that was the A seed that, I mean, they didn't win a lot of games. I mean, they won 47 games last year. And like they were the A seed. The West is ultra competitive. I'm not saying that they aren't, but
they were good. They were like a good team, but
yeah. And then it's like, you're looking at this though. It's like, who finished below them? Like the Kings, Warriors, Rockets, Jazz, Grizzlies, Spurs, Blazers were the teams that were under them. The Kings got better this offseason. The Warriors probably stayed the same, maybe a little worse, maybe a little bit better, depending on how some things flow their way. The Rockets are probably going to be much better. They just straight up probably are going to be much better. The Jazz are going to be worse because they're selling. The Grizzlies, who won 27 games, they're going to be better. And even the teams that you were one around the same amount of games as that were ahead of you in the standings, the Suns and the Pelicans are probably going to be better next year. I would assume they got a real point guard. Like the Suns, like probably be around that same level. Like the Mavs are going to be better, who only had 3 more wins than you. The Clippers are probably going to be around the same level, maybe a little worse. Timberwolves are going to be better. Nuggets are probably going to be a little worse, probably. But
I mean, they're not going to fall off.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? They've got a high floor with Jokic.
Exactly. And like Thunder are going to be insane next year. And
oh my god, man,
they're going to win. They're going to win like 65 games next year, dude.
Yeah, at least.
They have like the Celtics roster of all-star role players, and they have like 10. They're like 10 deep.
Yeah. And they have.
And they're all young.
They're all young. They still have so many picks. They have a really smart young coach. It's like what they have going over there is insane, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I just think there's a couple teams here that, I mean, the Cavs haven't made any moves other than just getting Donovan extended, which is like, that's good that he is doing that. But like their roster is even filled out. And they haven't.
And I just like the Cavs. They really feel like they've been left behind, honestly, kind of in the shuffle.
They only have 12 people on a cap holder roster right now.
At a certain point, they need to make like some difficult decisions about this roster, and if they're really serious about going all in, or whether they don't want to keep on being like, a good regular season team with not much playoff success, like that's what they've been the last 2 years. And like it's great, like getting Donovan Mitchell extended is huge. You know, get
Yeah.
that guy under contract because he is the face of the franchise. But Darius Garland, Jarrett Allen, like decisions are going to be made about those two sooner rather than later, or they should be made sooner rather than later. I don't know. This season, I feel like the Cavs are going to be like the 7th or 6th seed.
They could be. I mean,
be.
let's take a look at the East. I mean, Boston will be better, Knicks will be better, Bucks will probably be better. I think the Magic will be better.
Pacers could be better.
Pacers will probably be better. The Sixers are probably better. For sure better. Heat could be better.
Could be, yeah.
I mean, I don't really think anyone under
after that. It's like,
Hawks are pretty much the only team.
Hawks, Raptors. I don't know. After that,
Hornets maybe. I don't know. Depends. We'll see.
We'll see with the Hornets, man. They're like the Hornets are like my team where they could win like 40 games. They could go 40 and 42. I really think they could. Like when LaMelo was healthy a few seasons ago, like they were in the play-in and they got smacked, right?
Yeah, that was a funny game.
They were in the play-in. Now you're adding, Brandon Miller to that mix. You've got a better center in Mark Williams. Tejan Salon probably won't. He's not going to add many wins this season, but that's another guy you've got. New coach too. We'll see. We'll see with the Hornets.
Yeah, we'll see with a lot of these teams. I think I've been seeing some. I was watching numbers on the board. I think Kenny was like, I just want to see Brandon get traded to the Hornets for no reason other than that it would just be funny. I was like, yeah,
it would be fun. Yeah, actually, why not?
Actually, yeah, I'm all for it. Like that'd be dope. Yeah, shout out them for getting Taj Gibson and Seth Curry.
Why not? Why not?
Yeah. What are there's another team that hasn't brought in any free agents. I forgot who it is though.
That hasn't brought in any?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I don't know.
Utah? What has Utah done?
Well, I don't know. Well, they bought they actually did get someone. It was a really random role player though that's not actually that good. Drew Eubanks.
That's right. Yeah, that was so. It's like,
yeah.
no reaction whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly. I remember Suns fans on Twitter were like, "We are free from the
Eubanks." He was bad, dude.
Fans.
He's really bad. I was like,
he was really bad. He made Bol look like all NBA, bro. Bol. They still got him though. Bol. He's gonna win. He's gonna be their backup center.
We should talk about Gary Trent a little bit because I'm actually interested to hear what you.
Yeah.
I said on Twitter, like, I think that if this hits, this is really gonna hit.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I haven't. I'm gonna shout him out on pod, even though I don't really think he listens that much. But Bucks Breakdown on Twitter, that's my guy. He does a lot of film deep dives on the players at the Bucks sign. He doesn't. I don't know if he does YouTube or anything, but he does them all on Twitter. He said he's been taking a look at the film and he's really excited about the fit on both sides of the ball, because I think what people need to understand is that I retweeted a bunch of stuff. I don't know if you saw me retweet. I retweeted the net rating stuff that the Bucks had last season. 400 minutes, which is still a lot of minutes together. That's a highly played lineup. If you put the best 5-man lineups with 400 minutes, the Bucks have the number 1 and number 2 from last season. And one of the lineups is Dame, Malik Beasley, 38-year-old Jay Crowder, Giannis, and Brook Lopez.
Jay Crowder, dude, Horst. 5 second-round picks for Jay Crowder.
Okay. Well, 5 second-round picks, 3 second-round picks, which 3 second-round picks for Jay Crowder or 2, which is fine. Like, that's an overpay, but like, I get it. The other picks, we had to give up picks to dump Jordan Nwora and George Hill's contract to Indiana. That's what we had to give up the other one. So it wasn't just 5 to Brooklyn. So it still was a bad trade. But I saw the vision with the trade, so I'm not going to hate on it too much. Like, I understood what the purpose of it
Yeah,
was.
that deadline was hilarious. Second round picks were just flying
Oh yeah,
everywhere.
like everyone traded at least
Sadiq
2.
Bey went for like 4 or 5 second round picks. D'Angelo Russell went for like
Who signed
3
with the
second round
Wizards? Good,
picks.
good deal. Good
Just
deal.
yeah, just super
Sadiq
weird.
Bey is going to recover from his ACL. He's going to come on the Wizards. He's just going to start shot chucking, dude.
Yeah, and then he's getting traded right away.
He's getting traded to a team that's going to be like, dude, he only makes $8 million, bro. I bet he'll be good on our like playoff team.
Bro, I think the Cavs are gonna pick him up and it's not gonna work and he'll go back to some other team. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, one thing that I was really like, from what I've talked about with the Bucks, I said there was 2 ways they could have proceeded with this offseason after their first 2 signings, which we already talked about, which was DeLon Wright and Taurean Prince. I said there's 2 ways you can do this. I said you can buy into the super big line, or well, there's 3 ways. You can buy into the super big lineup, and you can start Taurean Prince at the 2 and have like a 6'7", 6'8" guy with a 7-foot wingspan, like not a hyper athlete, but he still can move. And you're going to sacrifice some mobility probably, but you're going to be super sized. You're going to have a ton of size. You're going to have a ton of mismatches up the door, up and down the starting 5. You know, you're going to have a giant front court. Chris is like 6'8". Dame is a small guard, but he's also like, he's like bigger, you know. I don't know if you know what I mean. Like he can get to the rim. And then you're going to have a 6'7" shooter.
He's strong. He's
Yeah.
strong.
Yeah. I say you can do that. Or, you know, you can start more of a shooting guard type player that we have on the roster, whether it be AJ Green's, who I'll put you on now. AJ Green's going to be a good player for us next year. AJ Green, Andre Jackson Jr., he's bigger, but you know, he's still like not like a really like a guard. Like he's not like a power forward. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like he's not like a big, or you can start like DeLon right there as like your combo guard. And you're probably going to be better off playing that way. But then you're going to need to sign, depending on what option you pick there, you're going to need to sign either another guard, which then I was like, okay, well, you have to bring back Pat Bev, who's going to play in Israel, whatever. I don't even know. So he's going to play in Israel, whatever. You're going to have to bring him back in Pat Bev, or you need to bring in like a Markelle or a Dennis Smith Jr., someone to come off the bench that can handle the ball, because you're going to need a backup point guard. The Bucks went without a real guard for a good portion of the season last year off the bench. Mm-hmm. We had Cam Payne, but he was injured, and also Cam Payne is like 6'1" and he's skinny and a complete cone, and he can't catch and shoot because he shoots like sideways.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, then you need to bring in a backup point guard. Like you need a someone to backup ball handler. Well, then it's like, okay, otherwise you need to sign someone that can start at the 2. And the only option really for me that I thought was actually a starter was Gary Trent Jr. Mm-hmm. I was like, you're going to have to sign him. And then DeLon Wright's your backup 1. Taurean Prince is your backup 2-3, maybe small ball 4 hybrid. You have Andre Jackson coming off the bench. You have AJ Green. You still have Pat Connaughton. You have Bobby. Like, that's what I wanted. And his fit with us, think is going to be, I mean, you look at the numbers last year. He shot over 50. He shot 51% on wide open catch and shoot threes. Do you know how many wide open catch and shoot threes he's going to get?
A lot.
Like Malik Beasley was like feasting. And Malik Beasley is not as good of a player as him. Like I've seen people say like that's the same type of player. It's not. It's not at all.
Gary Trent is better for sure.
He is better. He has more in his offensive arsenal. He cuts really well for a guard. Like you see him move off the ball well on offense, which is something that Malik Beasley didn't really do that much. Like he moves off of screens as a movement shooter, but he's not moving off the ball in the paint or cutting back and forth between the baseline to the corners. He's not doing stuff like that. He's running around the arc. And I think that that's going to bode better for an offense that has a point guard who is going to be looking for people to be moving when he is trying to get to the rim, because Dame wants to get to the rim. He wants to get free throws, and then he wants to create shots after that pressure, because then people start giving him separation. And also you have Giannis on the roster. I mean, Giannis is just an automatic open 3 every time he drives the basketball.
Yeah.
Like an open 3 or it's a layup. pretty much every time he drives. Like
or a foul.
Yep, or he's getting to the line every time.
Yeah.
So like that just creates so much opportunity. And I think the place that the Bucks really struggled in last year was obviously defense. Everyone knew that. Gary Trent Jr. is not I'm not saying he's a lockdown defender. I don't think he's going to be all defense, but he's average to maybe above average. You know, he's athletic, he can move. And I think when he has a simplified offensive role, he's not on the Raptors. I mean, when he played for that competitive team, was that the Bubble Blazers that he played with when he was with Dame in the bubble? Like, he was a good defender. Like, he was a legit 3-and-D defender. And like, if you can just make yourself serviceable on defense, you have the players in the lineup to clean up mistakes. Giannis is going to clean up mistakes off ball. Brook is going to clean up mistakes at the rim. As much as Brook is limited, he's still a good, he's still a top 10 to 5% defender in the NBA just because of how good of a shot blocker he is. Like,
Yeah.
the scheme that he has to operate in does cause problems, and everyone knows that. But at the end of the day, he's still a net positive on that end. He's still blocking shots. He's still a good box out guy. He still creates rebounds for others. You know, he's still doing positive things on that end as much as, and like, unless you can hit a pull-up midi every single time, it's still going to be hard to score on Brook Lopez defense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that this just creates better balance in this roster. I think last year they built out the roster through free agency as if Jrue Holiday was the point guard, and you still had and Grayson Allen, who was not a good defender, but he was still a capable defender. You know, he can't guard forwards, which for some reason Budenholzer always had him on a small forward or a power forward for some reason. But it creates a more balanced roster. And last season, really the biggest problem was as soon as the bench checked in, all things went to hell. Just went to hell. I mean, Pat Connaughton was absolutely atrocious last year. Bobby was a black hole most of the season, especially in the first half of the year. He was really bad. I mean, he was much better down the stretch, but I mean, he still wasn't great. I mean, he's a liability defensively. And I just think with Gary Trent, I mean, if he gets back to being a two-way shooting guard, your roster is essentially like set. Like that's perfect for what you need. You have the shot creation star power. You have a top 2 player in the NBA. You have who I think Dame is going to have a much better season this year. Personally, like, he's going to be adjusted to his living situation. He's not going to be without his family probably for most of the year. He's going to be in better shape, I think. And
Yeah.
I think you're getting a better version of Dame, who theoretically with Dame, if he's even a little bit less, if he's 80% of what he was 2 years ago, that's still like 27 points per game, 26 points per game on good efficiency.
You don't need 2020 Damian Lillard. You just need something in between that and what you had last year. And I think you're good. I really do think you're good at that point. And, you know, I also think that there's a lot to be said with just running a team back. Like, you know, with my Wolves, the first year of the Gobert experiment sucked. The vibes were bad. The team wasn't good.
Yeah.
It was like, what do we just do? It felt like we were on the up and up, and it's a little bit different. Like, you know, the Bucks are not that far removed from a championship.
Yeah, and they're older. They're not young.
And they're older, right? So it's a little bit different. But, you know, I think sometimes these things just need some time to kind of to work itself out, right?
Yeah.
Players need time to gel. Sometimes it takes a season to kind of adjust to something new like that. In the same way, Gobert changes the Wolves defense. Taking away Jrue Holiday changes the Bucks defense, right? Those are things that you got to get used to. You're like, you know, for sure Doc Rivers is going to be the coach this season. And
that is a really big reason on why they fell apart. I mean, clearly whatever Adrian Griffin was doing was not translating well with players.
Yeah, I mean, the coaching was weird.
And then you switched. I know the answer to this. How many practices do you think Doc Rivers had last season with the team that weren't on the road before a game?
Is it like 0?
It's like 3.
3.
Yeah.
That's
It's like 3 to 5, like if you count like shoot arounds.
yeah. That you can't have that. I mean,
And like they're trying to implement like the only thing he could implement last season was like we're not trying to crash the boards because we're not good enough at it. That was the only thing that he changed, and our defense got drastically better because of it. Like
yeah,
drastically better.
yeah. I
I'm like, and the thing with like the Doc Rivers thing is like I don't think Doc Rivers is a top tier coach in the NBA. Like it's just he's not.
I don't think he needs to be,
He
right?
doesn't need to be like at the
No.
end of the day, all I need him to do is to create a basic infrastructure that works and you let star players show up because at the end of the day, regardless of your scheme, your star players have to show up if you want to win. And to be honest, I'll give Doc Rivers that on his side when coaching in Philly and coaching in the Clippers. His star players didn't show up. They weren't healthy. They weren't showing up in big games, and they were falling short of what their own expectations. Although he did have problems with that, refusing to switch rotations and stuff. At the end of the day, a rotation that wins you 55 to 60 games, that should be able to win you a playoff game.
If Embiid's not going to play well, like there's only so much coaching you can really do, right?
Yeah, and I have a lot of trust in Giannis and Chris and Damian Lillard to show up when they need it. And I know there's question marks about Dame past the first round of what he's going to look like. I couldn't care less if he just is like I've been dealing with Drew Holiday offense as my second option for 2 years in the postseason. It's not like a fun time. Like it's not going to be worse than that. I can guarantee you it's not going to be worse than that. And like, it's just, I think that everything's going to gel better next year. I think the chemistry is going to be better. I mean, Chris Middleton just had surgery, but it was an arthroscopic cleanup surgery, which people hear surgery and they think it's like some big deal. That's literally like most players probably get arthroscopic surgery like every year or two. Like it just cleans up bones and stuff and tendons and muscle and that's all it is. And like regular people get arthroscopic knee surgery so they can like walk better. Like, so it's really not that big of a deal to be honest. But I just think everything's going to flow better. And I like the way that you put it. Like if this signing hits, like it's going to it's going to hit. Like if he's shooting 40% from 3 again next year and he can be a positive defender, the Bucks are in a pull. They're above the other teams because Giannis is a lot. Yeah. Giannis is gonna average like 30, 12, and 6 again. Mm-hmm. Like that's just who he is. Like you said, we said about the Nuggets with Jokic, like their floor is so high because they have that guy. Giannis is that guy.
Yeah.
Giannis is that level of player. And even then, Dame is that level of player where he's going to keep you afloat in moments when those other, like Giannis is struggling. Or Chris, too. I mean, Chris Middleton is probably one of the most undervalued players for how good he. I mean, if you were watching the playoffs, that guy was averaging like 25, 5, and 5 with no help on a sprained ankle.
Yeah.
He's a good player.
Yeah, I think I also agree. He's kind of become one of the more underrated players in the league, which is kind of crazy. I mean, Chris Middleton, it's like we've known what he's been for a while now. I mean, like what year was it that he averaged like 27 in the playoffs and it was like, whoa.
Probably
2018, 2019, something.
Yeah, I think it would have been 2019 when they beat the Celtics probably.
Right. Yeah.
2018 it might have been too. 2018 is when they played the Celtics. 2017 or 2018 is when they played the Celtics and they Chris Middleton hit all those crazy buzzer beaters. I'm so excited to watch. I'm so excited to watch this team. I think people have a right to be weary of what the regression of some of these players, but at the end of the day, they have a ton of really high-end players on the roster. You know?
Yeah.
And you just gotta hope that they all flow together well. I mean, compared to like of actual top end talent, the only team that's got comparable like top 2s and 3s is the Celtics. Like of like quality of player wise, like
Yeah.
you know for sure what you're getting of that. I mean, maybe I guess the Wolves maybe. I mean, they have a Depoy, they have 2 All-Stars, but you don't know
Yeah.
how that goes. But like it's just like
But
I understand
yeah,
being weary of the injury issues that could pop up with Chris and other guys, but I think that this team is on a pace to be better than they were last year, for sure. Like,
absolutely.
and I don't need them to be back to what they used to do. Like, if they're as good as they were offensively last year, this year, and they're a league average to, if they're the 12th or 13th ranked defense, and they're as good as they were on offense last year, and if they follow the 2023 Nuggets book, where it's like, we're really good on offense, we have a good defense, and we have a really good clutch defense. Like, we're really good in clutch moments. We have a really good net rating, and then I think that's what they should be shooting for. They're not going to find an All NBA defender just pull it out. I mean, and I think you can rotate in some younger guys next season, and see what they have, and hopefully develop them. And you still have players that you could trade. Like, you still have players that you could try to see if you can get something for them. I mean, I would not be surprised if Marjan and Pat Connaughton are dangled around.
Pat Connaughton's still on the team.
Huh? Yep. I mean, and you know what though? Like, Pat Connaughton, not awesome player, but looks a lot better for you when he's your 9th guy or 10th guy instead of your 7th guy. Like,
Definitely. Yeah.
like that looks a lot better for you.
Yeah.
So yeah. But and also hated the pick, but AJ Johnson kind of hooping in summer league. He's kind of hooping in
Pretty
summer
good.
league.
And I think we can kind of segue right into summer league.
Yeah.
While we've got some more time here. I think we should just start talking about like guys who have impressed at summer league. I mean,
Yeah.
I think for the most part, a lot of the rookies have played really well. I mean,
except for the top guys.
Except for the right, except for the top guys. But I think Zachary Risache, I think hasn't been perfect, but
nah, he hasn't been perfect. But also his game isn't situated to be like the creator on a team, which in summer league, that's what and I said this too about Tyler Smith, who's we drafted in the second. I was a big fan of him coming out, and all the G League Ignite guys, you say like, well, they could look a lot better if their infrastructure was better. I say that about a lot of guys, and when you evaluate their college or their G League tape or whatever, if they're playing for Ignite, and I look at it and I'm like, well, does Risache not look good because he's not good, or does he not look good because he's a movement shooter, catch and shoot guy who plays good defense, and he's being asked to handle the ball in the half court?
Yeah.
Like, he's probably going to look better when he's moving off screens and shooting threes and creating deflections and stuff. Even then, I really like Risache's flashes. I mean, he had that one really nice pass that I saw where he kind of slipped through a couple guys, got into the paint. He threw a bounce pass behind his back to the corner, and the dude like airballed it. It's like, okay, that's a positive play. Like, you can mark it down as a positive play, even though nothing positive happened.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The top guy on the other side, Alex Sarr,
has not. Yeah, the offense it's been really bad. I mean, obviously the 0 for 15 game really stands out.
They said Tony Snell can finally rest.
But even in the games where I think he has been better, the offense still isn't there. I mean that's something that we could expect, right? We watched the tape, and
yeah, I mean,
the offense is far off defensively.
Every time I talk about his offense, I'm like, you should go watch our YouTube video, and like literally, it's all we talk about.
Yeah,
the entire time.
Mm-hmm. The defense has been good with Sarr for sure. I
Yeah,
think
he
a
had
lot
a
to like
couple nice
there.
blocks, and his recovery looks really great around the
Yeah,
rim.
which is like I think what you want, right? I think he's going to grow into that, and just kind of talking about both like number 1 and 2 picks. I think summer league, the way to evaluate it is really just really leaning into the eye test and putting aside production and stats a little bit and just being like, how does this player move in kind of a faster pace of
Compare
play?
Does he look like he is at a better level mentally than the players around him?
Yeah, does he look like he belongs on the court? You know, what does it look like when he takes a catch and shoot threes? How is his timing on drives, defense, all of that? You really got to watch and just kind of see for yourself a lot of like what these rookies are about. And I think Risa Shea has passed the eye test for the most part for me. You know, I think I feel pretty good about him. Sar, he's going to get there, but defensively at least, right? Like what you said, I think it's been a good watch from that end. And then you get to picks 3 and 4 in the draft. Reed Shepard, Stephon Castle, they've been amazing so far in Summer League. Reed Shepard has probably been the best player in all of Summer League so far. Just looks so comfortable.
He had one rough game, but
He did have a rough game, but I mean, I know he played 2 amazing games where he looked just so comfortable getting to his spots, shooting the ball with range, playing okay defense. Reed Shepard's been great. Stephon Castle, he's got it. Like he just has it. I think it's clear as day to me that Stephon Castle is going to be a very successful NBA player.
yeah, I know that I've seen some people that we know talk about him and be like, I don't know what his role on offense is. He looks fine doing whatever role they ask him to do.
Yeah.
Like play off ball, inside the arc, outside the arc, play with the ball, pick and roll. Everything has looked pretty decent to me. The defense is going to be there. So it's like, I don't know. You're just hoping that the jump shot takes place, but it's like, if there's one thing that I have hope for is like a guy that's like didn't take a lot of jumpers, but like is like okay, like and good at everything else, maybe developing a jump shot. I would take that bet over taking a complete project every single time, probably.
Yeah, and the form looks good, and again, it's the eye test. Watching Stephon Castle take 3-point shots, it looks like a shot that could go in, right?
Yeah,
it looks like a shot that works for him. It really does, and so I think Reed on Castle really just kind of jumped out as being great.
My number one guy is definitely Kel'el Ware.
Oh yeah, he's been awesome.
Hold on. Yeah, so Kel'el Ware, I think like what he's looked like for the Heat has been exactly what they've been missing on this roster for a long time. And they've never had another big man of any capacity, whether it's a power forward or a center that can play alongside with Bam or Bam's minutes and produce positive defense and offense. And I think they found that guy. Like, I genuinely think that they have found a player who can play in the starting lineup as a 5 with Bam at the 4 if they want to start experimenting that, which we've seen at Summer League, with like Team USA, which I'm gonna get to that in a second. But like he could come off the bench and just play the backup 5, and you're not going to see this massive drop off where you're throwing out like random players, and it seems like Bam as a player he's been a lot more unspoken than we've ever seen him really this offseason, saying like, hey, I need like I want to play with better talent. I want to be able to play different roles.
As he should. Like I think with Bam, I think he's looking around at his team, at the Heat. They're it feels like the walls are closing in a little bit. He's looking at Jimmy Butler, not really playing much in the regular season. I bet he's like, yeah, I think I actually want some talent to help me out there.
Yeah.
And
which is a completely a fair thing for him to say. Like,
yeah,
like, hey, like I'm like we have great players on our roster, which I think is what he said. Like all these players are good players, but like I think he kind of was like, we need to like. I think pretty much the assumption was like, listen, we have really great player development. We get these undrafted guys, these second round guys, these late first round guys. We get them and we develop them into productive players who are like real contributors on like a
Yeah.
contending team, like our contending hopeful team. But we also have the opportunity to acquire these all-star players or these high-end role players that are established in the league and we never do.
Mhm.
And it's putting a lot of pressure on Jimmy and me to like be good all the time and like
Yeah.
never have any problems. Um, which is like a completely fine thing to say. And like with him playing the 4 full time, I've seen a lot of people say that. I still like him personally as a 5, but I would like to where it's like the reverse of Giannis. Like I would like to see them have a 5-man that he can play the 4 with, that can stretch the floor and still let him run those elbow passing sets that he's so good at, and let him expand his game outside of the 3-point. Like, I mean, I know that Spoelstra and Jimmy have been like he can shoot threes, but like where really is the opportunity for him to be a catch and shoot 3-point player?
Yeah. I mean, it would only come at the 4, right? Which we've like Kel'el Ware is not going to come in and be Anthony Davis, right?
Exactly.
But we've
Yeah.
seen it. We've seen it.
You
Like
never know. No, I'm
you
just
never.
kidding.
Yeah. I guess you never know. But we've seen through Team USA, like that last game against Serbia, like that Bam 4 lineup with another like defender out there was like amazing. That lineup
Yeah,
won
they
them
could
the
not
game.
do. Jokic could not
Insane.
do a thing. Yeah.
Couldn't do a thing against him. Kel'el Ware, like I think this season they're going to try to experiment with that a little bit. See, for some, here and there when we need to go big, let's try playing Bam and Ware together. Kel'el Ware he's been awesome this summer league. I think I was already pretty high on the pick the night of the draft, being like, I think Miami got somebody in
He's
Ware.
supposed to be mine, bro. It was supposed to be mine.
But now after watching some summer league, I'm even higher than I was before. Now it's like, okay,
I think
it really hit here.
I think they had 2 ways to go in the draft. I think it was take Ware or take a point guard.
Mhm.
And they took Ware, and I was fine with either one. I was actually very upset that they did take him because I didn't know if he was going to get like. I think there was a big stretch of teams there that were like, "We're not drafting a big man,"
Yeah.
and I think he could have fallen to Milwaukee, especially because Denver traded up for Holmes, but I think they were dead set on getting Holmes. I don't think they wanted to take the bet on Ware,
No.
and I think Milwaukee was. From what I've heard from like Milwaukee people, like or seen, like they were like Ware, like that was their guy.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And then they drafted a project point guard, but he's been pretty good. So I'm gonna shout out to him. He is skinny though. Oh my god, I see him out there, dude. He is tiny. He's like 6'6", 165 pounds.
Yeah.
Like, he's small. He's super small. But if there's any team that's gonna get a skinny kid bulked up, it's gonna be us.
Yeah.
But yeah, another guy, I just had in my mind that I think, also with the Heat, Alondes Williams, Milwaukee legend, crazy dunk the other day, absolutely crazy dunk.
Yeah, that was nasty. Other guys in summer league.
Yeah, I'm completely blanking on who I was gonna say. Oh my god. I will say this. I want to bring up this guy. Yves Missy has played. Yeah, I don't know about him being their only real center on.
We said that last episode. We're like, so who are the Pelicans bigs and Missy? Oh man, I don't know.
He's looked rough.
They got to get somebody bad.
Yeah. Edey. I don't know. I don't think we said Edey. I think he stopped playing already. I think they already shut him down. Yeah. Everyone who was like, he's a second rounder, blah, blah, blah. Like, I was in the middle of that conversation. Like, I think there was guys who were super high on him. I think there was people that were way too low on him.
Yeah.
But he just looks like he's just going to be good. Like, he's just going to be a good player.
yeah, I think he's going to come in and do exactly what Memphis needs. And I'm like, I'm really glad that he went to Memphis of all teams.
Yeah.
Because I think he fits an immediate need for them, and that's what's best for him, for Edey. If he goes to a bad team out there, let's say, a young team needs a big, let's say Wizards, they don't take Sarr, they're looking for another big, they take Edey.
I think he could have been actually a pretty decent fit there, though.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they literally have no other center on the roster.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know. I just think Memphis is a really good fit for Edey, and like, yeah, it was those summer league games that are in Utah. I think he right away. It was like, okay, this dude is huge. You can feel his presence right away. Him setting those screens, he just creates such an advantage for the ball handler in those situations. Just a big dude, and I think he's really going to help out Jaren. He's going to help out Ja Morant a lot. I really like that fit in Memphis, and I think he's just been so good so far.
Yeah, and then some second-year guys that I was really high on last year in the draft. Taylor Hendricks has looked really good. Jarris Walker has looked really good.
Yep.
If Indiana doesn't play Jarris Walker, I'll be very upset.
I think they've kind of got to now, right? I mean, Jalen Smith is out the door. I think they play different positions, I guess, but that's a spot in the rotation that I think Jarris can come in and potentially fill. So, I mean, he's looked really good. Other rookies, Terrence Shannon Jr. for the Wolves has been like just a dog out there. I think that's another guy that a lot of teams kind of, I get why teams passed on him, right? His last year was really weird. The pre-draft was weird with him. I think teams were just a little bit uncertain about him as a prospect, just because he hadn't been scouted really as heavily as other guys for some reasons. But man, he looks like a man amongst boys whenever he's out in that court. Terrence Shannon. I mean, just the strength he plays with, the speed, the burst. He's an older prospect. He's 24 years old, but you can feel that age. You can feel the difference in age between him and a lot of these other guys out there. And I think it's a real win for the Wolves that they have a guy in Terrence Shannon where it's like, okay, I think you can be our ninth guy in the rotation. Like we aren't going to have to rely on Joe Ingles to be that ninth guy. I think Terrence Shannon Jr. can be that. I think he can play in the NBA as kind of as your end of the rotation guy, and summer league is in the actual NBA much different, right? Much different. But Terrence Shannon Jr. has just looked so good. He started off summer league with that poster dunk that was like, whoa, okay, we have somebody else that can do that now.
Yeah, I was talking about Terrence Shannon with a couple of Bucks fans because that was a guy after all of his stuff got cleared up.
Yeah.
That Bucks fans really wanted because they're like, yo, he can play the two. He'll be and he should project as a good defender, which he has looked as excellent in defense of the summer league, which I'm going to take with a grain of salt. Obviously. But I think when we were talking about it, they're like, well, he's 24. Like you take the bet on a really young guy who you think is going to be really good, which I think AJ Johnson could be a really good player. But I was like, how much better of a player would AJ Johnson be in 3 years than Terrence Shannon is right now, or within a year or two?
And that's a good question.
Probably not that much of a difference. And I just think Terrence Shannon as well, he just has a translatable skill set. He's super physical. He can get to the free throw line, he can get downhill. He's athletic, and that should all translate to defense, especially when you have the mentality for it, which I saw an interview with him that said that he's yeah, I understand. I'm not going to be a scorer anymore. That's not going to be my thing.
And there's and something that I've noticed with the Timberwolves is there's a real defensive culture here where it's if you aren't going to play defense, you aren't going to play in the rotation, right? Guys like Monte Morris, when we traded for him halfway through last year, he had to play defense here. He came in and was to play for the Timberwolves, it's the expectation that you're going to play defense.
Yep.
And he did that. And I think Terrence Shannon Jr., is coming in with the same mentality. Like, I am going to have to play defense to fit in here. And as far as how you can use him on offense, because, you know, you aren't going to be playing him the same way that Illinois was. Like, he's not going to be your guy. You know, you already have that, but I think you can almost use Terrence Shannon Jr. the same way you use Ant, just off the bench.
Yeah.
I mean, that I think that could work. And as far as playing off the ball, I think Terrence, his jump shot is weird. I mean, it's a really low release point, but it goes in. So, and if it works for him, it works for him. Rob Dillingham, I think, has not looked as good. I mean, he's 19. He's also tiny. Speak about tiny players.
Yeah.
Rob Dillingham, like, I knew he was small, but it's like he's like Trae Young size, legitimately. Like,
Yeah.
he is small.
He's skinnier. He's the same size as AJ Johnson, I think, weight wise, but he's like 5 inches shorter.
Yeah, he's much shorter than that.
And he doesn't have like a huge wingspan or anything.
Yeah. And the shots haven't really gone in that much for him, which is not something to be concerned about. Like, he's gonna make shots in the NBA. But I've really been impressed with his passing. Like, I knew that he was probably an underrated playmaker, but really watching him make these passes, it's like there are passes that Rob Dillingham can make right now that nobody else in the Timberwolves can make.
Yeah.
Like, and they need that. They need a point guard. They need somebody who, like, I mean, big shoes to fill, but who can hopefully replace Mike Conley when he kind of ages out of this starting job. And from the passing and from the playmaking that I've seen from Rob Dillingham, I think that there's a path for him to do that. I think he just needs to be able to take contact a little bit better. Obviously, that shot's going to come around, and if he can sustain this, like, I think,
and spacing in the NBA is going to be better for him.
Oh, like, yeah, I mean, he's out there with Dacian Nix as his spacers. He's up there with Leonard Miller, Josh Minot, guys who are not shooters. I think it'll be a lot easier for him in the NBA.
Yeah, I agree. I think like you gotta like kind of just take it easy with guys who are going to be benefiting from NBA level, like, I don't know, play, I guess, like,
yeah,
more than other players. And that's what I was getting back to with like that infrastructure point. Like, some players need better infrastructure around them for their skill sets to thrive. Like, am I like a catch and shoot heavy player? Am I really taking anything he does seriously in summer league?
In summer league,
no. Like, he doesn't have a NBA level slasher on his roster. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to just seeing what I'm really excited for this season, like, to come around. Like, I'm really intrigued. I think there's gonna be way more good teams than there were last year. And you know, I'm just excited to see where a lot of these guys go. I really am curious if the trade market's gonna heat up soon at all. But from what I've seen, it's just like teams are afraid to trade because they don't want to get their cap situation so
yeah, I mean, the CBA is like, teams they don't know what to do. They just don't really know how they should be operating, whether they should be really, you know,
and they don't know how it's going to affect teams for like in the future. Right. And like, I think that there's going to be a level of hesitancy around it until, like, literally, I think the Phoenix Suns are going to be the entire league's guinea pig. They're just going to wait to see what happens with them.
Yeah.
Because if they're still like sustainably successful, they're just going to be like, all right, then this shit doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But if they're not and they crumble and burn within a year, it's like, okay, well.
Yeah. So teams are their front offices, they're playing their cards conservatively right now. I don't really think that we're going to see too much more crazy stuff this offseason. Like, yeah, I just don't think we are. I mean, there's still some, like, you know, higher profile guys who just haven't signed anywhere yet. Tyus Jones is still a free agent. He's just out there. We'll see what kind of happens with him. But and I think there are some other guys too that are, you know, not insignificant who we haven't really heard anything from.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, I think that about wraps up. I think next episode we're going to be doing our point guard ranking list. We're going to do all the position rankings like we did. We'll probably rotate through position rankings as well as standings stuff. Probably do. I don't know if we should do. We could go division by division again, but we'll see.
Yeah, we could always mix it up. I mean, like it takes a while to do.
The division by division thing was a lot. It was fun though because we got a lot of guests. We brought people onto the show, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with it again.
Yeah.
But awesome. Well, appreciate anyone who's made it all the way through the video. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, and peace out.
Yeah, peace.